And welcome to the first CrossFit Canada podcast of 2026. And we have DK, BP, MS for today. But another
sounds like a litany of illnesses, Matt.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thanks for joining. We're going to talk coaching goals for 2026. Maybe it's a year of reflection, whether you guys go by calendar year or fiscal year. It's inherent to set some goals, especially in CrossFit, whether it's our clientele physically or ourselves personally. But let's talk how we can maybe steer the CrossFit Canada affiliate coaching community towards some goals to level up their coaching in 2026 from there. So, but before we get into that, for those who don't know either of you, shame on them, but we'll go right to left. You're going to introduce yourself, where you are, your affiliate, and then we'll do quick question of the day will be, actually, let's see if you guys have any CrossFit goals individually from there. So again, right to left, we'll kick it off.
Okay. My name is DK. I'm in Muskoka. My affiliate is CrossFit Muskoka. And then CrossFit goals. My goal is to annoy Jason McDonald less. If you know Jason, he is a calm, composed, quiet man. And I see his face when I come in, like Labrador energy. I see him just brace himself. So my goal is to slowly speak slower, be quieter, just annoy him less.
You being a Brit and everyone else maybe being too young, but it's Ben, you remember Looney Tunes? And I don't know if DK, if you had Looney Tunes but it's like,
yeah, we did.
There was Spike, the big bulldog, and then the little chihuahua.
Yeah.
That's what comes to mind. Hey, Spike, what do you say, Spike? Can't get you something, Spike?
That's definitely the vibe we got going on.
Tall to be Spike, but I do think the reference is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. We'll have to check back in with him later in the year to see how that goal is going. Ben, what about yourself?
I'm Ben. I'm based in Saint Eustache, Quebec. I coach at L'Usine Saskatchewan here. It's like 3 minutes away. It's great. Yeah. What else did you want to know, Matt? Sorry, like I blanked out.
Your CrossFit, or we can just say we were talking offline. You have either CrossFit or just physical goals.
Oh yeah, goals. I don't know. I'm gonna do like my 15th Open. That's gonna be a lot of fun. I do want to place high enough to do quarters this year. That'd be great. I think even though I've embarked on a strongman side project, I still have enough fitness, I think, to hit quarterfinals. So that's the goal. Oh, I do have a very serious goal: to not forget to submit my 26.3 score, because I forgot last year to submit 25.3, and that kept me out of the
Community Cup.
The Community Cup.
Yeah.
Which crushed me, because I was really looking forward to that. So yeah, place high enough to do quarters and do the Community Cup. Those are my goals this year, and to do them despite
what color t-shirt you aiming for though?
What color t-shirt?
Yeah, you get a different one based on different levels of the Community Cup.
I mean, I like to think I'm somewhere in like the 6 range, something like that.
Yeah, I know Debrek has a dark green shirt.
He's like level 8, 9, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. He wears that shirt with pride though. I like the color scheme. I thought it was cool.
He deserves to wear that thing with pride. He's a very fit individual.
The man of boundless energy. Well, I'm in CrossFit Aurelia, Ontario, just south of DK actually. And physical goal, we have a trail running festival here locally. DK, you guys got to have it's a lot of fun. And my goal is, it's an 8-kilometer lap. My goal is to just run start to finish each lap instead of walking on the hills.
Wait, is this the 24-hour one?
Yeah.
Are you going to do the 24 hours?
Yeah, we have.
No, are you doing it with a team this year?
Yeah, this would be our 3rd year.
Oh, that's cool. It's 8K is it 8K an hour?
It's an 8K an hour, but you can do teams of 6 or teams
Four.
of 8 or teams of 4. Yeah, I did a team of 4 the first year and a team of 6 the second year. It's gnarly, but nonetheless, keeping DK on track here. So, fellas, coaching goals for 26. Let's just to get the discussion and the dialogue rolling. Let's think lesson plans, because I feel like that could be some low-hanging fruit of like someone who wants to level up their coaching, but maybe has never done or tried the process of a formal written lesson plan. I know that's part of the level 2 curriculum in terms of like what gets at least mentioned for the classes. So Ben, where would you say someone could kick off with if they want to start lesson planning?
I think I'll speak to like my. It's funny that you mentioned 2026 goals, because I think that's my big one. I'm in a position now where I don't have any control of the programming, and so even just to start lesson planning is great, because as a part-time coach where you don't have control of the programming, you need to lesson plan. I believe that firmly. Every time I roll up and start preparing for my class, like I write a lesson plan. And I think the number one goal is to look at the plan and decide, where can you add value, is generally how I frame it. The owner of the gym writes the programming. I think the programming is pretty sound on the whole, but it doesn't come with a lesson plan. So it's up to me to do it. And then whenever I look at what are the elements of the class, I'm always like, okay, where can I take a moment to teach a progression, add some value? And so if you're in a situation where you do have a class plan, you can start to think about who's going to be in your class and be like, how can I maybe modify the class plan to suit the needs of the people in that class? I think a lot of people just try and look at the class plan and are just like, well, I'm gonna do it, verbatim, but that's not necessarily the best approach. So yeah, where can you add value as a coach if you don't have a class plan? And if you do have a class plan, how can you modify it to meet the needs of the people in that class?
Because some people might say like, oh, I don't want a lesson plan because I don't know who's in front of me and I want to be able to adapt to that. But ironically, the more of a plan you have, the easier it is to deviate and to fit the people in front of you.
Yeah. I don't know why, like we talk about goals. I don't know why why you wouldn't have a lesson plan. It makes it so much more enjoyable from the experience of a coach. Like, just as you said, Matt, like if I know that my workout kicks off at 32 minutes and I know I've got to get a bathroom break in there. So I've got to take off 2 or 3 minutes. So I'm going to 29:28. I have to be ready to go. But someone is struggling with a movement. I can now go over, make sure everyone understands, go after it, because I know I don't have to go till 28. But if I don't know that number, I'm like, no. We need to get here. We need to get the bathrooms. And you watch coaches, I drop in all the time in affiliates. They'll rush through the important stuff. And then they find themselves 5 minutes ahead of the clock and they chill out. And then we have a 5-minute get your grips on gymnastic bathroom break. And we've missed the opportunity where you could have really dialed some stuff in. I'm not even sure that's a goal. Like, I think that just makes it fun.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, you actually like Ben coaching part-time at another affiliate, DK, you as an affiliate owner, and you hold your coaches to it. You make lesson planning mandatory for your coaches, right? And
yeah, if you don't have a plan, then you're just guessing.
What do you well, it's true. And so, but what's interesting from that, I'd like to see your perspective though, like in how you help your coaches develop, is you can have a plan. That's great. But what if your plan on your 8x11 sheet of paper is full of words? So how do you help your newer coaches?
Yeah. So I worked for like 5 affiliates in Toronto, and I'd be working at 1 a.m, 1 p.m, working out clients through lunch. And I'd be at 5 a.m, someone else's affiliate. Oh my God, I can't believe you programmed this. I've been there, I've seen it. But they're like even more important, because I'm like, hey, you want to do a strength followed by a 30-minute Metcon? My warm-up is going to be like hot, spicy, heart rate through the roof, and it's going to be 4 minutes because I've got stuff to teach you. Where if I don't know that information, I may do a general warm up, slowly build everyone into the morning, and I'm going to run out of time somewhere. So like what Ben's saying, I know Ben goes in with a plan and Ben may love the programming for the day or hate the programming for the day, but he knows what's in front of him. And like, I coached a workout this morning, it's 40 minutes. There's like, when you put a warm up and a cool down in there and a specific in there, there is not a lot of chatting time. So conversations were fun today, and they were had in the cool down at the end of the class. Where like, if my workout is 9 minutes and we're building slowly throughout that, then there'll be a little chatting and a bit of working through stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's to keep me on a leash or to keep them on a leash, but like,
It's to keep you on a leash.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Keep everyone on a leash, but
the
well,
thought
but
of
even
doing one without sounds terrible.
well, and maybe like, you know, as I think you guys know all too well, like either a level 1 or a level 2. After the programming lectures, there's these kind of side conversations where a coach will pull you aside, be like, or maybe just they'll ask the room, like, you know, my affiliate, we do too much. How can we start doing less? So then they think, okay, well, if you're not used to doing less, it's hard to fill that time. But then the opposite is like, how do I make sure I rein it in just coaching Fran at 8 minutes? It's like we could still fill the full 60 minutes. So Ben, how do you see using the lesson plan to have coaches maybe help them put in, say, some practice time or some threshold training time?
It's so funny because this conversation is hard, not hard in the sense that it's a difficult conversation, but it depends on what your situation is in. And I know that more and more gyms are buying external programs and they provide lesson plans. Even CrossFit's offering CAP. It's a great offering, provides lesson plans. I think if you're a new coach, you should probably strive to just do the lesson plan as is. My encouragement would be to practice applying the lesson plan to the point where you can start to realize or learn when you can deviate from it in an intelligent way. Like, why would you deviate from the class plan as laid out? Like, is it because you find yourself in front of several advanced athletes who maybe need a longer ramp-up time than what is laid out and less instruction? That would be an intelligent way to adapt the class plan. But the only way you get to that point is by actually following the thing, right? You have to accept that you can't improvise as a new coach, and you probably shouldn't. It's going to lead to a poor experience for the members, and it's going to leave you flustered as a new coach. And yeah, that would be my encouragement. It's like, follow the lesson plans. And then if you're a more experienced coach and you've been lesson planning, well, then you get into the point where it goes back to what I said earlier. It's like, okay, well, where can I add value? Because the more experience you get as a coach and the more effective you are, we talk about this to level 2. Well, you can do more in an hour if you're a more effective coach. If you're seeing and you're correcting is better, well, then you can do more stuff just because people will move better under your instruction. And then you can modify, again, the class plan to meet the level of coach that you're at, right? That when you take the programming outside of the gym and you pay someone for programming, the programmer doesn't know what your community is like. And so you have to know a little bit about class planning in order to apply that plan to the reality of your gym. And then if you're working with someone like I am, who does the programming for the gym, and the programming is sort of written at the level of the community, well, then it makes my job easier. But I do have to class plan for myself because all I have are like sections. You know, I have like a warm-up that's written and a skill section and a workout. And then the teaching really comes down to me and how I want to fill the in-between those sections out.
Right.
Or the session.
What Ben just said is,
and if that's your case, well, then class planning becomes even more important. Because even though I've been coaching for nearly 15 years now, if I decide to wing it, I'll succeed because of my experience, but it won't be the best. I'll like trip over my words. I'll get stuff wrong. I won't have the right scaling options planned out. And that's not doing anybody any favors either.
Well, Ben just says really crucial when you, if we take this out of the CrossFit space and you look at something like the airline industry, if they have crashes, the first thing that we all know they do is go to that black box. And if you can't look at what happened, you can't stop it happening again. So let's say you do go in and you've got a lesson plan, you're a new coach, and you just have a terrible class. It's all over the place, and your experience is bad and their experience is bad. If you can't look back and look at where you could have corrected that, we can't even begin to have a conversation. We can't even break that down. And then the opposite. If you have an amazing class, you're like, oh my God, that felt so good.
What did you
but
do?
You didn't write it down or what you did. There's no way of repeating that information again. So the tail of the tape is going to allow us to repeat performance and correct it. Like, as Ben just said, that's going to help experienced and beginners.
It's funny you say that, because off camera, my podcasting mic is in this binder. I've put every lesson plan I've done since 2019 in a binder, and here's this year, and it's empty. But I have a couple from last year where I'm like, okay, I did the muscle up really well. Let's save that. I liked this clean progression. Let's save that so we can pull them back to reference on later and make it so much easier. And often I'll see that with my own coaches. Yeah, they'll write out the timestamps, they'll miss the timestamps, and instead of going back and thinking, where did I go wrong? They'll just stop putting the timestamps down. That makes it an easy way to hit your timestamps, is just don't write them down, right?
Denise Thomas does a wonderful piece, and I'm sure she's got it online somewhere about how to write one. She does hers
horizontal
landscape, right? And I used to do it on a clipboard, and my wife encouraged me to use an iPad and get futuristic, but now I can send them to people. So I'll do mine in the morning, and then I'll say to the evening class, hey, this is what I have. And the evening coach will have theirs written out, and we can compare numbers and go, oh, okay. And then we're any mistakes that get made in the morning don't get made in the evening.
Yeah.
No,
it's great. So I think then moving on to the class is, if you do have again, we follow CAP, DK, you guys are linchpin, right?
Yeah.
And so both services that come with lesson plans, but Ben, to your point, is the notes will say look for this, look for this, look for this. So as we move into changing the conversation into a specific warm-up style, we can always talk about general warm-up in a bit here. If we're following the lesson plan and it says look for hip extension or coach people on hip extension, well, then that's what we should be doing. So in a specific warm-up setting, we call it the teaching as well as the seeing and correcting. Where could some coaches start, DK, on being more effective in that aspect, in the specific warm-up?
How can they make the specifics better?
Yeah, or just improve and be more effective.
One of the things I play with specifics, and this again, speaking of what Ben was saying, beginners and new are going to be in different spaces. As a beginner, we see some of the movement breakdowns. I mean, from the level 1, you can see those 9 foundational movements broken down into, okay, we're going to sumo deadlift, and then we're going to sumo deadlift shrug slow. And there's a reason and a purpose for that. So sometimes if I'll get a movement and I'm doing my movement, I'm writing it out, okay, what am I going to put first in my box jump? Am I going to put the start position, the landing position, look at hip extension? Instead of breaking it down into movement patterns, I've started breaking it down into movement themes. So I'm looking for a knee tracking a toe in this lunge. That gives me a little bit of freedom, because my goal is that everybody in the room understands the cue for knee tracking toes, and that I, as a coach, have a highlight on the people that struggle with that position. Maybe that's in a squat, whatever that's in, right? And I've been writing that down in my lesson plan, and then my goal is to fix that problem. And honestly, sometimes I set myself 5 minutes and it's done in 1, or with the expert thing that Ben said, or sometimes I'm a beginner and I'm like, whoa, this is going to take. And sometimes I don't get to the later movement themes that I planned. But instead of being like, Okay, we're teaching the snatch. We're going to deadlift to mid thigh. I don't care about that really. I'm using the deadlift to mid thigh to check a start position and to check a constant torso angle to mid thigh. That's what I'm looking for. Or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm looking for something else. But until that's completed, we don't go on to it. And if I never get to the rest of the snatch and the workout today now has deadlift to mid thigh, well, that's where everyone was scaled. And that's probably poor lesson planning on me. But realistically, it allows me to not give myself a tick, and it stops me teaching the movement and encourages me to coach the movement, as in fixing faults, improving positions, which like is the biggest bugbear of me. Is like, I could go online and find the world's best coaches. I could find both of you probably online on YouTube and see you coaching movements. So why do I hire coaches? Because they're going to see and correct and coach.
Right.
And so the way I run my specific now is get that movement theme dialed in, make sure you know the people in the room that need it, and make sure you know the people that the verbal and physical cues that are going to be used. And then you get to move on to the next movement theme. And I break my specific up now a bit more like that. And if I have a traditional thing, like there's some very common Bergner breakdowns of the snatches or the cleans or the pull up in the level 1 manual, I'll use them, but I'll stick to the movement themes.
Yeah. So, and for like teaching, less teaching, or not less teaching, but less explaining. So Ben, do you see that a lot? Is like, the difference of explaining the movement versus just using the movement to teach a concept is what DK is saying.
Yeah. I was gonna say I see a lot of explaining and cueing. And so in response to your original question, I was gonna say what lesson plans generally do not provide is what cues to use for certain things. So it's one thing to tell a coach, hey, I want you to watch for keeping the bar close in the snatch.
Yeah.
Now, as a beginner coach, you might struggle just with seeing it. And so if that's your case, well, then try to not say anything until you do see it. Or, film whatever and break it down if you need, or get someone to help you see it, or, work the seeing. And the seeing takes time. Perfect. And then where I see people kind of go wrong is then they do not have a plan to actually correct the thing that they're looking for. So if the plan says, look for keeping the bar close, and then you start explaining the problem to the participant, you're not actually helping them. And I do see that a lot. Like I do mentor coaches at the gym. And I think one of the most common issues that I give feedback on is, okay, you saw it, and now you're sitting there being like, hey, I noticed that the bar is getting away from you. It's like, you're right. Well, what then? What's your plan now? And so what I do know a lot of class plans do not provide is what cues to use to correct the things that you see. And you should probably prepare them, especially as a new coach. Like if you don't have a verbal, a visual, and a tactile cue for keeping the bar close, like, hey, you're doing this, I want you to keep it closer. Hey, I want you to pull the bar into your chest. Or, a tactile cue would obviously be hard in that specific instance because you're going to get whacked if you're too close. But irregardless, like you should prepare those things and be prepared to just say those things without an adjoining explanation of the problem or a description of the problem. Because invariably what happens, the participant just looks at you and listens, and then they're not getting fitter and they're not working out and they're not doing the thing.
Well, you probably see it like, let me just, again, for those listening, like you're basically saying like, well, even if a coach is wanting to start calling reps, the worst thing could be like, this person call a rep, this person call a rep, this person call a rep, this person call a rep. And they feel like they have to be beside the person to cue them. And then they feel like they have to explain it to say like, hey, I have to go all the way across the room to stand in front of Ben. Ben, your bar's getting out away from you. Like, I just think you should. And then all of a sudden it comes this really awkward conversation. But what CAP does do, I will say, is it says like, just here's the cues to use. Keep the bar close. But maybe someone thinks, no, that's too simple. I don't need to write that down. Versus there's no reason across the gym I just can't say, Ben, just keep the bar close on this next one. That's it, right? It's not offensive. It's not it's singling you out to say, hey, keep the bar close. But guess what Jenny's going to do beside you? Keep the bar close as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. But yeah, the amount of times where I'd be like, I'll be watching in the corner with someone and I'll be like, hey, what do you notice? And then they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, we taught keep the bar close. And they're like, oh yeah, I see it getting away from them. I'm like, get in there, say something. And then they go in and then I see them start to explain the problem. And then I like bring them back and I'm like, okay, you saw the problem. Now, next time you go up to that person, just say bar close. And even with that directive feedback, like they're shy about it. They're just like just say their name and say bar close.
I've definitely played with the concept of restricting my cueing on purpose so that I can develop different types. And as Ben said, like whether that's being like, I'm only going to give 2-word cues, body part, direction. I'm not allowed to say any more. And if you're a coach that's doing a lot of hours, if you're an affiliate owner that's constantly working a vast amount of classes, this can really break up the tedium because you're like, okay, my 7 a.m. class, all tactile cues, right? you know, whatever it may be. But like when you put those restrictions on yourself as a coach, we're now getting threshold training and coaching and we're able to challenge ourselves. And I think that's when you end up with some really cracker cues because you're like, I'm really struggling to explain this in 2 words. And then I end up saying some of the weirdest stuff like, oh, you're elbowing someone at the music festival. And I'm like, elbows up, all right, whatever it may be, right? And you end up with these weird cues that just click for people and they won't for everybody. But purposely restricting yourself to like only verbal, only tactile, or even, as Ben said, you're allowed body part direction. That can be really fun as a coach to just break up the monotony of I'm going to teach an hour Murph class and I'm on the 5th class of the day or whatever it may be.
Yeah, because you may, if someone like tactile cues are great and it's interesting, some people don't favor them, but some folks really do. But then it's like, okay, I do see something from across the room, but now I have to trek all the way over there because I want to somehow pull their knees back. And again, it's not that that's not effective, but if we're just being completely just like, hey, how can we improve as coaches? Can I fix that the moment I see it and just stay here and see some change in movement? Because maybe you can save how much time you use in your specific warm-up by not having to use as many tactile cues.
It's a great way to like run against the clock is by just being so thoroughly committed to tactile cues. You have to move to everyone. And so as soon as you're like beyond 4 people, then in like a nice little box, like it becomes really unwieldy and very time consuming to like go to 5 people for tactile cueing. So that's like you a lot of people are shy about using their voice. And I get it because most people don't know that I used to be a very shy boy. As a newbie coach at the age of 22, like I was very shy and like didn't want to yell, but I had to just get over myself and be like, okay, I have 10 people in front of me and I can't get to all of them. So chest up.
Yeah.
Matt, chest up. DK, pull the bar in.
That's so interesting, Ben. I think I'm the other way around. I think my confidence and my energy is fine. I think I need to be quiet.
I can imagine you going through the challenge of being less verbal and struggling a little bit.
I think one of my favorite coaches don't speak very much. And maybe that's like, maybe everybody loves the sports athlete that has the skill that they don't, right? The slow players like the fast guy. And you know what I mean? So my favorite coaches, like I speak about Jason, he's one of my favorites, and so is Matthew. They don't waste a sentence. I don't think Jason's ever said a sentence he didn't need to say. He's like I'm not going to waste this in a big explanation. I'm going to say in one sentence. It's fantastic to do. And it's hard for me to then accomplish that. So I kind of try to do that and get there. With tactiling, though, like you're 100% right. You're not going to be able to tactile cue every single person because if it's a fix, you're going to need a couple of reps at it. And we can't fix more than one dynamic cue at a time anyway. So we need to manage the room in that way of like, okay, I'm only going to be able to fix one dynamic anyway. And if I've got 20 people in this room, I'm not going to take 20 reps of this hang, high pull, or whatever the progression is. So I feel that learning to be quiet, move, hustle around the room, and then be able to be effective, those restrictions maybe help me a little later in mine. And I think for what Ben was saying, that's every coach is going to be different and come in with different comfortable statements and stuff like that.
For sure.
I just had a thought too, because I know that the affiliate I coach, that's not the only one. But if you are in a situation where you're not using an external program that has a class plan or a definitive focus, I think it's incumbent on the coach to decide with whoever's programming what the teaching focus of the day should be. So you need to prepare for your class by having that conversation. Like, oh, I noticed that you put power cleans in an EMOM before the WOD. What would you want the focus of that power clean EMOM to be? You know, in Capital, lay it out. In a lot of other paid programming, it'll kind of lay out what the focus is. But if you don't have that class plan in front of you, there's so many ways that you can take the power clean. You could be working on the position or the elbow position or the catch or the hip extension or timing. It's like, okay, what are we focusing on today? And then teach or modify the progression with that in mind. And that's where class planning, you know, back to the class planning thing. It's like, you got to plan for that. If you're just kind of doing the Bergener progression for the sake of doing the Bergener progression, but there's no focus, like that, people will struggle because they won't be thinking about something specific to do.
So Ben, do you think I'm just curious to hear your answer on this. Like, do you think that's the ownership of the guy who's in charge of programming? Or do you think, okay, because I think affiliates can run this two ways. First off, I think what everybody is agreeing on, as far as I'm hearing, is that if you buy a program, if you get it given to you, it's not a rubber stamp. It's not like, here's your lesson plan, follow this to a T. Because as you guys have spoken about, equipment, layout, athletes are all factors. And there's a bunch more. I think that's your ingredients, and how you cook it and how you plate it is going to be completely up to you. And I think whether you think that it's the guy who's in charge of the programming to take this external program, run it through their filters, and then give it to their coaches, or whether you feel the confidence, like if Ben was my coach, I could just throw at him any workout and be like, you're going to be able to find your own take on it. And sometimes that's fun, because then sometimes I go with Ben and I've got this like, all right, well, Ben's got this expertise in developing strength, and maybe he's got some concepts in like how my power clean today is going to be about speed acquisition, how that can help my strength development. But if I've got Matt and his background is kind of this mental endurance game with his work with Todd, maybe he's got a psychological way of like keeping the reps unbroken. And then we get this lovely like little flavor on the same workout. But again, it's how you run your affiliate. That could be two different affiliates, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and so then speaking of segues, that's going to affect how we scale athletes as well, right? Is because you look at something, we could just say a pull-up, like there's a zillion different ways to and modifications for the pull-up. But as Ben's saying, like, well, what are we trying to accomplish with the pull-up both today and this week and maybe this month? Is it part of a cycle? Are we prepping for the open coming up, where maybe singles are appropriate in pull-ups because that's what we would allow someone to do in the scaled division to get their first pull-up? So, you know, the idea of a specific warm-up for it to be fairly effective is to help us as coaches guide our people to an effective threshold for their workout. What are some common poor choice or ineffective ways to scale people that we see? And how can we maybe start suggesting some more effective ways there? Both of you started to grin. So
you're gonna have to start a clock on this. But
DK, why are you holding your head? What's going on?
Because my biggest frustration is when coaches with good intentions and good abilities come in and they look at their class and they know their athletes and they start limiting their athletes off the bat.
Yeah, they try to, and like, so.
Okay, we got handstand walks. Okay. So these guys are doing wall walks and these guys are doing around the boxes, and like that's great, but you only get your handstand walk because someone got in there and taught you how to do it. So
Yes.
for me, scaling outside of injuries should be happening as we go through the specific.
Yeah, so I guess what you're saying, like, because I have coaches that do this, sorry to cut you off, but I agree, is like, the coach comes out and like people are putting their shoes on. They're like, okay, guys, like we've got bar muscle ups today. DK, what are you doing? Ben, what are you doing? Steve, what are you doing? It's like these people haven't even put their shoes on. We get that you're trying to organize your class, but you haven't even assessed where they're at today, and you're already trying to like stack them up and solve that problem.
Yeah, and 3 seconds before your first ever muscle up, you don't have a muscle up. So they're like, who has a muscle up? Put your hand up.
Yeah.
It should be like, who's working towards their muscle up? Amazing. Guess what? Like, if we've got the strength components and we've got it dialed in today, maybe you'll get a shot at that. But what I'm not going to do is be like, who has a muscle up? All right, you're muscle up. And who doesn't? You're doing jumping. Like, that drives me nuts. Because as an ex-athlete who came in with a lot of like physical skills, physical abilities, but not necessarily the skills. I don't know if you've ever seen my sport, but it doesn't involve a lot of rings. So like, I only got a shot at developing those because a coach saw me and was like, this guy has a potential to get one day. Or many coaches, I should say. So like when a coach already pegs you, is like, they see Ben and they're like, well, Ben doesn't, he's a big, strong man. He just won his division. He clearly doesn't have a muscle up. And yet if you know Ben, you know he does. So like that would drive me nuts if someone wasn't like, okay, we're going to go through progressions and then Ben's going to shock like bang one out beautifully. And that drives me. That's why I grab my headband, because I get so frustrated when it's some things like handstand walks that are typically very afraid, and we get in and they're like, I'm 61. I'm like, cool. If you're with me until 75, I have 14 years to get you a muscle up. And I may never get there, but it's my job to try.
That scaling goes back to the stimulus, and most purchase programs do have the stimulus kind of laid out.
Yeah.
And some of the scaling options too. But where does coaching skill and experience come in? A lot of paid programming that I see kind of like to paint people into buckets of level 1, level 2, level 3. Well, what happens if you're level 1 on movement A and level 2 on movement B? Do you only do level 1 and suffer through half your workout? Or do you do level 2 and have one movement be too easy? So if you're like a level 1.75, you need to be able as a coach to identify that and be like, hey, you don't fit into a nice little bucket. Let's adjust. And then if you're not paying for the paid programming, well, then, DK asked me, like, into who is it incumbent to know what the stimulus is? It should be the programmer. And then the programmer needs to tell the coaches what the stimulus is. Or the head coach needs to look at all the coaches in the eye and be like, hey, I think that this workout is targeted for X rounds or X time. And here are some of the scaling options I'm envisioning for today, and then vary them. So speaking from experience, when I was coaching at CrossFit Laval, like I was programming, and I also sent out an email at the beginning of every week being like, okay, coaches, here are the stimuluses for all of the workouts this week. Here are some of the coaching focuses, and here are some of the scaling options I would recommend on that day, with sometimes a justification, sometimes not. But, pull-ups come up pretty often in CrossFit. Sometimes at really high volume, sometimes at lower volume. So it's like, okay, well, today's a high volume pull-up day. Jumping pull-ups would be legit. Like it would be okay for today. Whereas like a low volume pull-up day, well, maybe we don't do jumping pull-ups. We do banded pull-ups on that day. And so I would like force variety and scaling options with the team by doing that. But I was the programmer. So like I would spend 2 hours in front of a spreadsheet doing programming, and then I would spend 40 minutes writing out a well thought out email of, you know, how to scale and tackle the stimulus of the workout.
I think
the point being, you need to have that information, because otherwise you can't make intelligent decisions, or you'll get to what DK is saying, you'll limit people. If you paint people into the level 2 bucket, how are you getting them to strive for level 1? Or I don't even know what direction it works in, 1 or 1, 2, 3, but still,
yeah.
There's
a color one out there for sure.
I just had this conversation recently with like a competitive athlete, imagine, and they were like, oh, you know, like I feel stuck in like level 2. I think they were doing proven, not to throw proven under the bus or anything. It's not that it's bad programming, but they're like, I feel stuck in like level 2. I'm like, have you thought about like blending the levels? And they were like, I was like, how do you think you get from level 2 to level 1? Like you have to maybe be a 1.5 for a while, and you're going to have to make some decisions based on how you feel that day. Like if you think you can push the weight on the clean, but it's going to make another movement suffer, like be aware of that. Maybe you'll have to, you know, adjust up, adjust down.
Can we agree that like programming is hyperinflated in the space, and that like what Ben just spoke of perturbing the stimulus is more important than like the name on your programming email? And that I would rather go to a class with like the most basic stripped down programming delivered by an amazing coach that preserves constantly varied high intensity functional movements than go to like the most complex, amazing program where like it was written by all these amazing people, but delivered to a way that wasn't enjoyable or something that I could come back to time and time and build a habit around. Like, I just feel like we're all just looking at programming now and being like, this is the solution because it's the most easy dial to move. You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, we started the level 2 programming lecture with, we're going to talk about programming and scaling, but be aware that the most important things are being well coached, preserving intensity, movement quality, and consistency.
I remember the last workout Ben and I did together. I don't remember the program, but I remember like moments with the movements of trying to like keep the quality of, I think it was a farmer's carrying a sit-up in there. And I remember,
I do remember that. That was a fun little workout.
So, but it wasn't, if you saw it online, no one's going to read it on Instagram post and be like, whoa, sit up some farmer's carries. Like,
but
it was good.
And so like, because that's the thing, like sometimes the writing is on the wall, but maybe it's not, like in the sense of coaches can run a great progression, they could call reps, give cues, all that stuff, but then it's like, okay guys, you're just gonna pick the scaling option that works best for you. Like that's what was the whole point of you running the progression. It's like, it's not about finding the perfect thing, not the most, but like one of the best pieces of value you can just provide to someone is stand in front of them face to face and say like, Ben, you did a great job on the knee ups, but I really want you to do a straight leg raise for today for your toes to bar. And you're like, okay, yes, coach. Like and oftentimes coaches will struggle. We're all 3 experienced coaches and clearly have bravado, but I know there are coaches who say like, well, what if people don't want to scale or they don't want to do the scaling option that I want them to do? And if you just say, here's what I saw, so here's what I think you should do, more often than not, someone's going to say, okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds great. And guess what? They're like, oh, I got given some personalized coaching. That's valuable to me.
But I think we're forgetting the fact that we're a revolution. I get it that CrossFit is mainstream now and we're part of the
revolution.
Like, no, what we're dealing with is revolution. Like, we're coming out of an era of bodybuilding where you have 12 movements, each 3 sets of 10 to 15, where we're coming into the workout and we're just going movement. And we're saying, no, more intensity, better quality, bigger compound movements. Like, let's be a revolution. Let's not, and I think presenting it in a way of like, hey, I'm after a result. And an experience that goes with it, but I'm not going to compromise the result for the experience. All right. I want you to go after something heavy today. So I think these are heavy for you. And like, if you're not willing to like work with a coach to get the best possible result, there are 1,000 different options you can do. and it's not in my affiliate, because you're here to get better. I put the ownership on you getting better onto my coach. And if you're not getting fitter and you're doing 5 to 6 programs a week and following a diet and balancing those things, I want to look at my coach and be like, why is this athlete not getting fitter? And then that's a conversation we have to have. But like, this thing worked. We all know that, number one. And number two, I think when we're looking at programming or development, it's execution. We keep coming back to this. Ben's mentioned it 1,000 times, like how you get there, how you blend it, how you position it. It's just like, let's get people fitter and let's execute in a way that's enjoyable. Yeah, I don't see the difference in that. You're going to get me rolled up now. Start the revolution.
It's funny what you said, Matt, because yeah, it makes me think of loads of situations where, yeah, it's very easy to do a progression and then just kind of like close your eyes and hope that people make the right decisions, but you have to guide people to the right decision. It can't be at the athlete's discretion. I mean, it can be because they have agency, but it can be a collaborative decision.
Yeah,
and often,
great word.
Yeah, collaborative decision. And more often than not, DK like kind of alluded to it. If you believe that they can do it and you voice it out loud, it gives them the belief that, maybe I can. And the amount of times where, like, I don't know, say you're doing an AMRAP with 10 toes to bars around, and they're like, I really struggle linking my toes to bars together. I'm just going to do hanging knee raises. And I'm like, well, how about you do 2 toes to bars and 8 hanging knee raises? And they're like, I can do that. It's like, yes. And I think you should. And I think you can. And I think that will make you better at toes to bars in the long run. They're like, okay, I can do that. And then suddenly they went from doing 0 toes to bars in that workout because they automatically assumed that all they were going to do was hanging knee raises to being like, oh, I'm going to do a few. And if it's a 5-round workout, well, that's 10 more toes to bars than 0. And then
they're the magic moments.
They're like, wow, it's the first time I ever did 10 toes to bars in a workout. And
yeah.
5, let's go.
If you're in one of those classes and you watch someone get their first toes to bar, it's a great feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did heavy grace yesterday, and there was a guy. Well, I was in the class. I wasn't coaching it. Well, I'm a terrible person to be in your class. I talk too much. I'm way too excited. And we're hitting clean and jerks, and the guy next to me, he's building his weight, and he's looking, and it's a 185 is the RX, and he goes, 185. I'm not sure, and they're like, just try it, and he does the most beautiful 185. Bam, stands it up. And then he's like, whoa, I'm going to do 30. And then the coach comes in and it's like, no, you're not. Like, amazing, huge win. Today, you're now going to bring that down to 165. We're going to go through 30 reps. You're going to aim from 7 to 14 minutes. And that's our intensity. But he had a terrible workout score. His workout score wasn't that great. His cardio is not fantastic. But he left with this beaming smile on his face because he hit 185 in the warm-up. And he's just like going home to tell his wife. And like those moments could be your first 10 toes to bar or your first muscle ups. Like, don't take them from people. They're amazing. Yeah.
You're muted,
Whoa.
Matt.
Yeah. Oh, I hope we're not in charge of this, Ben.
I just saw Matt's mouth move and I was like, uh-oh.
Am I back?
You're back.
That's why you always have 2 microphones.
I'm sure you could run a podcast. I'm sure.
Yeah. He could run a podcast, just wouldn't stay on time. And
yeah, it wouldn't. 3 hours, no one listening.
So to that point, we could be here all day, but I'm sure DK has swimming lessons to get to with his kids, and Ben probably has another meeting, and I've got to get kids to gymnastics. So, Ben, what's not the one thing, and DK, it'll be the same question for you, but something you would like to see a passionate CrossFit coach make a goal for this year? Do more of this, or try more of this, or do this.
Despite what I said about a common error I see of over explaining, I also see a lot of shyness. And I think that you should strive to deliver at least one cue to each person in the class every class.
Yeah.
There's, you know, I get that we're like in an environment that is very positive and uplifting and fun. So it's part of what's kept me in it for nearly 16 years now. But people don't get better by having you just sit in a corner and watch them. Like, it has to be more proactive than that. And so if you do find yourself in a position where you've gotten kind of comfortable and you're not queuing as often as you should, get back in there. Yeah, you might make mistakes. You might say things that make no sense. You might over-explain from time to time, and that's to the detriment of the athlete. But I do want to see people try, give a cue, refine that that muscle is what I would love to see people do more of.
Cool. DK, same question, but you get 60 seconds to answer it.
Okay, take class, do class, work out with your friends, go get taught by bad coaches, go get taught by good coaches, go find out what irritates you as an athlete, go what finds you enjoy as an athlete, hear other people's cues, take class, go get coached by somebody.
Fun fact, when DK was first on the podcast, he said that surely you must be doing classes, man. I'm like, actually, no, I'm not. And I made a point
Outrage.
Ever since then, doing classes, because you're either A, experiencing the product, or B.
Well, I've worked out with both of you. At the very least, do a class to steal ideas, to steal things you like or don't like from there, right? And so, and I'd say for what it's worth, just start. For me, like, a goal would be to tell someone like what they're doing really well and get them to do more of it. Just start there. And it can even tie into what you're saying, Ben. Like, if someone's nervous about cueing, they probably don't want to tell someone what they're doing wrong. Well, cue them on what they're doing right and get them to keep doing it, and just hold them accountable from the start of the workout to the end of the workout. Show me those great knees out again. There it is.
It's never wrong. That's the wrong mentality. It's how could it be better?
Yeah.
It's how can it be better? Hey, it's not that you're wrong that your elbows are catching low and that clean. It's just I think you can get them up a little more. And just approaching it from that mentality will probably help you get over the hurdle of like you're criticizing people. It's like, how am I gonna make this better? It's not wrong. What they're doing isn't wrong. Like, can I make this better? And then if you go at it with that sort of mentality, I think it'll take you a long way.
I told my coach feedback. I said, like, you're not being critical of the person. You're looking for every possible opportunity to make them better. And they're like, oh, okay.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah, I love that. What a great way to finish.
There you go, DK. You learned something today.
Yeah,
let's be together. 3, 2, 1, time.